where we are. The main point that we spoke till now, I will say this, I will summarize it in a few sentences, things that we've learned already. In a very big difference between, all of the nations and the Hebrew nation. We have a situation where a lot of people in the nations, all the sages of the nations, they're trying to find, it's called theology, and they're trying to find who is God. In what God do we believe? Is God at this stage and that stage? If he is so perfect, how come he doesn't know what we do here? If he knows what we do here, so he's not perfect because we have free choice to do things different than what he wants us to do. All sorts of questions that the theologies are asking. But what we say, the Hebrew nation, and this is basically what the Kuzari is trying to explain, is that the Hebrew nation is living in a different era, all totally different era, different stage, where we spoke with God. We spoke with God in the Ten Commandments. We saw that. We spoke with God. God spoke with us, basically. He spoke with a full nation. He didn't spoke with someone in behind the scenes, and then he had 12 missionaries who spoke or said to others that it's like that. God spoke with the full nation of Israel. He exposed himself in front of the full nation of Israel. Before that, he exposed himself in front of the Egyptians in Egypt, and then he exposed himself in front of the Hebrew nation, spoke with them. Therefore, we don't ask all those questions, who is God? What we ask is something else. What is the relationship between God and us? And what exactly God wants us to do? Enough will say it in a nutshell, I will say it like that. And we just started to read again the Bible. Every year we're reading the Bible from the beginning to the end. And this week, yesterday, we started to read the Bible again. And the first verse of the Bible is saying to us that God created the world. No one forced God to create this world. It was his free choice, free will, free wish to do something like that. And what is the meaning of this? It's a moral meaning. God, who is the absolute of everything here, who is holding everything in this world, decided to withdraw himself backwards and to give life to something else, to the human, to the world. Now we need to learn from God and to live in this way, because just like I have the image of God in myself, as it's written down in the Bible, also you have the image of God, and everybody else have the image of God. So I need to withdraw myself and to give space to others to live. And this was the main, I will say, sin of Cain, who didn't give space to Abel to live. Since then we have, or we see along the history, especially in Genesis book, that brothers don't know how to live one with each other and they're trying to fight all the time. We can see this with Ishmael and Isaac. We can see this with Esau and Jacob. We can see this again with the 4 firstborns in the family of Jacob. But at the end of the Genesis, we see that they're managing to live together, basically mainly Judah and Joseph. And when Moses and Aaron is the biggest one, when Moses and Aaron are managing to live one with each other, and as it's written down in Exodus, that when Aaron will see Moses, he will be with a lot of joy in his heart to see Moses and to accept Moses to become the eldest, even though Moses is youngest than Aaron. This is where the Messiah can come. This is where the redemption can come, and the Hebrew nation is going out from Egypt and starting a new way, a new path in this world, where we are imitating God, we are behaving like God, and giving space to others to live. This is more or less what we saw till now in the Kuzari, and now we're going to continue on to places where we didn't spoke yet. I think so, yes. You see, but I have it here. I don't have it in a nice way. Let me open just a moment, Let me open the last one that we did, and then I will see exactly where we came. Okay. Oh, here it is. Let me share this one just a moment. So you'll see it also. This was the last one that we saw. Okay. Do you remember that? Or you want? I think that we saw that, or we saw all of this.
Yes, yes.
We saw that Moses came and he spoke about all the things that happened in history a few years before him. There's another thing that we spoke in the last time. We mentioned that also. Today, the science believe that the world started in some sort of time, something like 14 billion years in 200,000 years. This is where the universe started with the Big Bang, but this is only in the last 70 years. Until 70 years ago, the world believed that the world was for ages here and never was created. And one of the things that the Hebrew that is trying to teach us here, Rabbi Yehuda Levi, is to show to us that with a lot of things, we have the beginning of things. And this is one of the things that he's saying. He's saying, look, Moses is coming and speaking about 400 years before him, 600 years before him, and he have no one who is against his ideas. Now, today, if I will go backwards and I will say, for example, that Michelangelo wasn't exist. I can't say something like that because go to Italy and you will see his work, of Michelangelo. Or if I will say, for example, that the new age of how do you call it in English? The new age, Immanuel Kant wasn't exist, okay, for example. Those are words that I can't say. If I will say them, most of the people of the world will say to me, I'm nuts and I'm not sitting on the ground. I don't know how to speak. I don't know what to think and everything else. And the same thing happened with Moses. When Moses came and said 400, 600 years ago, this and this happened, and people said to him, yes, it's true, this is what happened and everything else, because it did happen. And he's trying to show in ways how exactly we are opening, I will say, the things of the beginning. One of the things that he showed, I think he showed it already. If not, so we'll see it in a moment. Is for example, that all of the world is counting the days only on the basic of 7 and the same day. And it doesn't matter if you're living in Australia, you're living in Singapore, you're living in Europe, you're living in Israel, or you're living in South Africa, or you're living in America, okay, in the United States. All of the world is, first of all, how come we came to the reasonable number of 7? If you look in your hands, you have 10. And there are places in the world that tried to do the week of 10 days, not of 7 days. Secondly, okay, everybody agreed on 7, let's say, for example. So how come everybody agrees on the same day? That today is Sunday, for example. Okay, and now the answer is that probably it started with one man that he decided, and from there it continued on. Okay, so this is an example of trying to think about a beginning, okay, that there is a beginning. Today, it's much easier to think about this because we all, the main, I will say, path of the science is speaking that the world started in some sort of a point of time. So it's much easier for us to speak about this. And we're saying also that God created the world, that it started in some point. But in his days, it wasn't like that. So those things we saw already, and let's go now. Now I'm closing this, and let's share again, and let's continue on from 59. Okay. Let's go. We're going from 60. Okay, you can see it is good. It's big enough. Let's go.
Yes, that's.
Here it is now a bit even bigger, right?
Oh, that's good.
I understood that this is connected with the age that we are, so it's okay. Yes. Okay, please, let's go. Let's start.
Okay,
Number 60, please.
Number 60, Kuzari. Does it not weaken thy belief if thou art told that the Indians have antiquities and buildings which they consider to be millions of years old?
So the question is very simple, that there are, I will say, we're going to a very interesting issue, I'll call it like that. He's going, basically speaking about India, okay? If you will go to India, you will see that they are speaking about thousands of years before of the world exists. Now we're saying that we are counting only 6,700 years. How come we're counting only 6,700 years? Now, I must say something here that is very important, and I want to jump for a moment. Okay, let me find it for a moment, just a moment. In 67, we're going to say something very important. Before that, we have something to pass, but I want to show something in 67. It's very, very important one, very important sentence, and because of that, I need to explain something, okay? Please read, this is very, very important point. Please read this. Or maybe I need to bold it and also to put it a bit bigger because it's one of the most fundamental sentences of this book. 16 and bolded, please.
Heaven forbid that there should be anything in the Bible to contradict that which is manifest or proved.
Okay, now the truth is that I prepared a small video, like I'm taking out lately, and I didn't manage it to put it on the internet. It's supposed to be tonight, maximum tomorrow, about this specific thing, because this is one of the most biggest contradiction that we have between the Jewish belief and the Christian belief. The Christian belief is speaking about Trinity, and when you're trying to explain to yourself how come 1 is 3 and 3 is 1, the most reasonable answer that you can get is that it's mysterious, and if you don't believe in this, if you don't understand, you don't believe. If you're asking too many questions, you don't believe. This is more or less what is being based on the Christian understanding. The Hebrew nation doesn't believe in this idea at all. Not that they don't believe in the Trinity. The Hebrew nation don't believe that anything that is related with the word faith will be contradicted, okay, with the brain that you have. God created the brain just like he created the belief, that just like he created everything in this world. We really believe in unity, in the unity of God. And he created also the mind that we have. Therefore, nothing will ever be contradicted. Nothing that is related with the belief that we have will be contradicted to any real science. I will call it like that. When I'm saying real science, I'm not speaking about assumptions of the science. I'm speaking about facts that we have from the science. Nothing will never be contradicted from this thing, or from simple logic that we have. We'll never have contradiction with those things. And everything have to be smoothly and understood in the right way. And if you don't understand, so you need to search a bit, to dig more, to understand more, to learn more, to find the way that things will be together. Now, why I said this, even though we are in much earlier stage, where the Kuzari is asking about the millions of years, because now he's going to give an answer that is related to something that he wants to lead in the book. It's a very important thing that he's going to lead. But I must also say a few words about when I gave a seminar for Noachide in South Africa, something like 5 years ago. They took me to a very interesting museum where they found in South Africa all the old men in this world. Okay, today we're speaking about the human spices, but there was before that there were, a million years ago, we found a few things that are of the old men. So how come the Hebrew tradition is speaking about that Adam and Eve? It's only 6,000 years ago. This is why I'm saying. So today, okay, all of the world accept this thing that the world started. On the other side, most of the world do believe that the world was much, much earlier than 6,000 years, 6,700 years, right? So how this is working together? And let's go under the assumption that there is no contradiction between real science and facts, okay, that we have in our brain, or that we can realize with our logic. And on the other side, the Bible is not saying lies. So how those things are going together? And there are two main. Is my question is understood enough, or it's not clear enough? It was clear, Brian. My question.
Yes.
But
Yes, it's clear.
David, it was clear. Okay. So there are two main answers for that. Okay. Answer number one, I think it's a tricky one. Okay, but there is this answer also. So I must say this. I want to be honest here. We have our sages are saying that Adam was being created as a human in 20 years old, not as a born baby, 20 years old man, okay? And if we're saying that, so we can also say that God created this world with things that look very old, in this world, but the truth is that God created everything and also those things. I think it's a tricky answer because I think it's a bit trying to denial, the science that we have today. Because how do we know if something is 14,000 years old or 25,000 years old or 2 million years old? It's related with all sorts of chemicals that we looking on the things and how long it took it to break down and everything else. Therefore, there's another answer that our sages are giving, that God created the worlds, destroyed them, created new world, destroyed them, and this is how he's working along history. And we're starting to count in the last 6,700 years ago, 3 weeks ago we started a new year, and this is where, when God gave to Adam and Eve something new soul inside them, something that wasn't before that. And everything before that was worlds that God created and destroyed. And we have a hint for that in the Bereshit, in Genesis chapter 1. We have a hint for something like that. I need to show this for a moment. Let me, I will stop the share and I will go to Genesis and not this one, just a moment. Let me open Genesis and I will show you something. Here it is. You can't see the screen, right? It's not good. Let me show you the screen.
Not yet.
So I'm sharing the screen with you. Just a moment. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1, okay? So let's go to Genesis chapter 1. In Genesis chapter 1, we have the 5 days, the 6 days, sorry, the 6 days. I think we spoke about this also, that when someone, never mind now. why they split the Bible in this way and not in the other way. One of the things that we have here, in the fifth day, okay, after we're finishing the fourth day, we're starting the fifth day. In the fifth day, God is creating life inside the water and life on the air. Okay, let's call it like that. So please read for a moment in verse number 21.
Verse 21, and God created the great sea monsters and every living creature that crawls, with which the waters formed according to their kind, and every winged fowl according to its kind. And God saw that it was good.
Okay, so it's basically it's a bit comparable to day number 2, where God created the water and the I'll say he separated the water from he created the water and also the heavens. Okay, and now we have water with movement inside and heaven with movement inside, all the birds and everything else. But let's look for a moment Rashi here. Okay, let's look for a moment. It is Rashi, sorry, it is. Let's show Rashi. Let's read for a moment Rashi for this verse. Part of the Rashi, we're not going to read all of this. Okay. Here it is. Please read. The monsters, the sea monsters.
Sea monsters, the great fish in the sea, and in the words of the Agadah, this refers to the Leviathan and its mate, for he created them male and female, and he slew the female and salted her away for the righteous in the future. For if they would propagate, the world could not exist because of them. Is written the final yud, which denotes the plural, is missing, hence the implication that the Leviathan did not remain 2, but that its number was reduced to 1.
Basically what it says here, I'm not going to go inside to all of the, I will say, the inside level of this midrash. Okay, there are 4 levels, as we all know: Pshat, Drash, Remez, Sod. There are all sorts of insights. What we see here basically is that our sages are saying to us, look, read exactly the Bible in the Hebrew language as it's written, and something there is missing, and it's teaching us that God, in one of the worlds that was before men came here, because it's day number 5, men is not here, created something very giant, very big, very, you know what, I will call it dinosaurs or something like that, that if they will be in this world, the world won't be able to continue. Men won't be able to be here. So God, after he created them, he demolished them. And what I'm saying here, basically, and this is one of the answers that we have, that God created all sorts of things before man came here, before he formed man inside this world. And those things, he also finished with them, passed them on. After they finished, after he saw that it won't work with men, then after everything finalized, only in the last 6,000 years, we have this thing of men that we know today. And before that, there were all sorts of kinds of people. Some of them are similar, less similar, more similar, less similar than to men that we have today. But the most important thing that we have today is that man that God created, he have also a living soul from God. And again, I must mention that. Please read verse number 7 here. This is chapter 2 of Genesis.
Verse number 7, and the Lord God formed man of dust from the ground, and he breathed into his nostrils the soul of life, and man became a living soul.
And please read this one also, Rashi here.
And he breathed into his nostrils, he made him of earthly matter and of heavenly matter. The body of earthly matter the soul of heavenly matter, because on the first day, heaven and earth were created. On the second day, he created the firmament for the heavenly beings. On the third day, he commanded, and let the dry land appear for the earthly beings. On the fourth day, he created luminaries for the heavenly beings. On the fifth day, he commanded, let the waters swarm for the earthly beings. On the sixth day, it became necessary to create for both the heavenly and the earthly beings, for if not, there would be jealousy in the creation, for theirs would exceed those by the creation of one day.
So we have here something interesting that Rashi is telling us, okay, that there was a time or a moment that God decided, this is the time that I'm interfering, and I'm putting also my breath, my soul inside this human being. And from there on, man is a very complex man. He have on one side his body that is coming from the earth. If you will go to any hospital for a few minutes, you will see how much it's working on the laws of nature, and you need to find the way how to fight the nature so it will stand as a normal thing. And on the other side, men also have something from heaven, something spiritual. And this is a complex of men. When did this started? Only 6,800 years ago, 700 years ago, 744 years ago, okay, if we will be exact. Only then it started this stage that we call the sixth day that God created man. Only then it started. The world was maybe very long time before that, but we have no, I will say it like that, listen good to what I'm going to say. 6,000 years, okay, of this world. By the way, today we are 884 years, okay? But when we're speaking about 6,000 years of this world, if you will think about this, a normal man is living 70, 80 years. So he's managing to see his grandpa, and he's managing to see his grandchild, usually. And we're speaking about more or less 110, 120 years, something like that. 120 years from 6,000 years is already a period of time that you can say, okay, I did hear something, I'm here. If you will go back to the Kuzari, I need to share the screen again. Let me share this, the full screen, okay? If you will go back to the Kuzari, it is, now you will see everything. Okay. If you will go back to the Kuzari, and he's saying, the antique Indian people are speaking about millions of years. And the truth is that the science also speaking today about millions of years. But if this is the realization of our life, that we are part of millions of years, so we are useless, we are nothing. We are only part of a dust in this world. This is why the Torah is framing us in the 6,000 years, where we're starting to have a meaning in this life. We're having some sort of a relation with things that we're doing, things that we are managing to improve in this world. And this is why the Torah is speaking only about this 6,000 years. Now, if you will go historical backwards, you will see that we don't have also in this world any historical evidence too much for things that happened before 6,000 years ago. We don't have. We're speaking about the old ancient Greeks 2,000 years ago. We're speaking about the old ancient Egyptians, okay, with the pyramids, with the whatever it is. We're speaking about 4,000 years ago. We're speaking about the old Babylon at the time of the Egyptians 4,000 years ago. Speaking of the flood 5,000 years ago. By the way, some are speaking about the flood. Some are speaking about Atlantis. What is Atlantis? Flood, in a different way of speaking about it. Okay? All of the cultures are speaking about some sort of a flood that was here. When exactly, how exactly, few thousand years ago, 5,000 years ago. That's it. Go backwards. We don't really have historical evidence or explanation or remembrance of what happened there. It was before the era of us. And this is what is happening here. This is the main question that he's starting with, okay? The Kuzari. He's asking, but you're speaking about in his days, 4,000 years, the world is exist. But the ancient Indians are speaking about millions of years. The truth is, it's not really a question because we don't care that they're saying that the world is useless. By the way, if you will go to the old Indians, what are they saying? They're saying that every person is having a karma and his soul is always running from one body to another body, from one body to another body, and he can't break this chain, and he will always stay in this way. So the meaning of this is that we don't have any meaning of life. We are just part of a very big chain of ourselves. This is how they're speaking. Millions of years like that. So do we have a meaning in life? Can we find a meaning in life? One of the most important things that today people are looking for is meaning of life. This is also why the Noahide movement also grew up so much in the last 20 years. Because people are looking for meaning in life, a real meaning in life. Not, by the way, we have also we have large communities in India. It's interesting also. They throwing away all the idolatry and they're coming to us. They're very upset with the Christian world that forced them to go to the Christian idolatry 100 years ago and saying, our fathers spoke with us nonsense. The Christian is nonsense. Let's go to the Jewish people. Okay, but people are looking for meaning in life. And you can't find meaning in life when the life is millions of years. So we're speaking about the period of 6,000 years. This is us. This is the period of time of our world. After that, there will be the world to come with another period of life that will be, maybe our sages are saying that then people will live forever. I think that the science is going to this stage of trying to find a way that people will live together forever. But okay, fair enough. God will be also part of this. I won't go inside to this issue now. So we saw here two things. First of all, we saw the comparing. We compared a bit how the Hebrew nation looks on the world in a bunch amount of years that is in a realization. And we also saw that it's not contradicting the science. We're speaking that it started, this period of world started with God giving also the side of his soul inside to men only 784 years ago, not before that. And we also saw, by the way, that man is very complicated. He is very related to the laws of nature on one side, and he is also related to the spiritual side on the other side. In the spiritual side, he doesn't have any limitations. In the body side, he have a lot of limitations. Where do we see the main contradiction between those two? If you will go to the Paralympic place after the Olympics, right? Straight after the Olympics, we have the Paralympics. What is the Paralympics? Where people who have a lot of disabilities doing a lot of competitions, right? And the wheelchair, and they're not. But you can see that the body is very, I will say, low, very almost nothing in compared to the spirit of human. The spirit of human have the possibility to go above the body. But man is very complicated because he have the body part and he have also the spiritual side. So those two are always bringing him to a lot of complications. Okay, so now let's see the answer. I must say that the Kuzari, Rabbi Yehuda Levi, is going to a different way. He's not dealing with the things that we spoke here. So please, let's read 61, please.
61, the rabbi. It would indeed weaken my belief had they a fixed form of religion or a book concerning which a multitude of people held the same opinion. and in which no historical discrepancy could be found. Such a book, however, does not exist. Apart from this, they are a dissolute, unreliable people and arouse the indignation of the followers of religions through their talk, whilst they anger them with their idols, talismans, and witchcraft. To such things they pin their faith and deride those who boast of the possession of a divine book. Yet they only possess a few books, and these were written to mislead the weak-minded. To this class belong astrological writings in which they speak of 10,000s of years, as the book of the Nabatean agriculture, in which are mentioned the names of Janbushar, Sagrit, and Roeni. It is believed that they lived before Adam, who was the disciple of Janbushar, and such like.
Basically, what he's answering here is saying, look, the Indian people are not the most smart people that we have in this world. We have a lot of contradiction inside the books. They disagree with each other. There are a lot of differences in the timings that each one of them is putting. Therefore, you can't really speak about those people in a manner of honor and reliable for the common sense. Now you will start to realize, you're going to read 62, and you will start to realize what Rabbi Yehuda Levi is doing here. He wants to compare the Hebrew nation and the Hebrew tradition with the sages of the philosophers, who are very smart people, okay? So he started with the Indian people that we know along history that they're not the most smart part of the world, okay? Maybe they're very kind people, they're very nice people, whatever it is, even a bit spiritual, but then the smartness is not the best side of their, of those people. But now please read 62.
62, Al-Kuzari. If I had supported my arguments by reference to a Negro people, therefore a people not united upon a common law, thy answer would have been correct. Now, what is thy opinion of the philosophers who, as a result of their careful researches, agree that the world is without beginning, and here it does not concern tens of thousands and not millions, but unlimited numbers of years?
There is a difference between if you're speaking or you're trying to speak against the Indian people, that we see that they don't hold the most smartest part of the world, and they don't hold one, I would say, direction. They have different books and different ideas, or that you're starting to speak against the philosophers on one side. This is basically the question that Rabbi Yehuda Levi is raising with this Al-Kuzari. On the other side, it is very interesting to note that he is putting here Rabbi Yehuda Levi in this book, in this paragraph of 62, some assumptions that if you think about this, who said that they're right? Who said that those assumptions are right? Okay, who said it? Does the philosophers have any proof that the world was always here in this world and never being created? Does any one of you who are sitting here speaking now with me, do you know what was the proof of the prophets, of the philosophers, that the world was always existed? Do you know those proofs? Yes, David. Do you know the proof that the world? You don't know. But do you know the proofs of the philosophers?
No.
Brian, you also don't know.
No, I would just.
Yes. What do you say, Brian?
I would just say the philosophers, like the scientists, a lot of statements are taken on. We talk about faith and we talk about belief. I don't see an atom, but I take it on faith that an atom actually exists. The same with similar things.
You're more than right. Part of the problems of the philosophers and also in the science that they're putting some assumptions that not always they have the possibility to prove it. And after they're putting those assumptions, they're saying, now we can conclude the next assumption and another assumption, even though they didn't manage to prove the first one. And this is how Rabbi Yehuda Halevi is trying to show us that the philosophers on the same thing. Now, today we know, it's written down already in the Maimonides, in the book of, it's called Moreh HaNevuchim, okay, the teacher of those who are wanderers. It's a book that was written in Arabic, was also one of the greatest books that we have. And it's also written down in Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant had a very big book. Tonight I'm going to speak about what is the main point of Immanuel Kant and the main point of the prophets, okay, from where everything is starting. But Immanuel Kant, who was the most highest philosopher of our ages, 250 years ago, he said that there are four, he called it antinomias of the knowledge. There are four things, and he have in his book, it's in German, but it's also in English, and it's also in French today, you can find it. He have in his books four issues that he's proving logically on one side, and then he's proving logically on the other side. For example, do we have a free choice to decide what we want to do? He's proving in one page logically that we have free choice, and then he's proving logically that we don't have. And he's saying this is one of the four antinomy of the logic, that we can't decide for sure this or that. And then he's saying the second one, another one that he's bringing forward, another one that he's bringing is God exists in this world or not. You have proofs for that, you have proofs for that. We can't decide with our brain if this is right or this is right. Right. And then he's giving one of the most important things, he is giving the question, is the world was created or the world was always? And you have logically all the explanations for this side and all the explanations for that side. And he's saying logically you can't decide this is if this one is right or this one is right. The Maimonides said the same thing 600 years before him. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, in the continuous of this book, in part 5 of this book, he is giving the same words of Immanuel Kant, almost 800 years before Immanuel Kant, okay? 800 years after that, Immanuel Kant, one of the big philosophers of the world, the German philosopher, big philosopher, everything else, he's already saying it. To say that the world was always, as he's saying here, okay, unlimited numbers of years, always it was here, this world. This is something that was decision of one of the assumptions that the philosophers took, and you can't prove it logically. We need to realize that. And this is where the Maimonides is saying, because it is contradicting one of the most important things that we got in our Bible, in the prophecy that God created this world, this is why we prefer the prophets and we don't prefer the assumption that they took on themselves, the philosophers. This is what the Maimonides is saying, explaining to us. But the truth is, it was never proven that the world was always. In his days, this is what everybody thought. Today, we know that also the science is saying that it started one day. Also the science, so it's much easier for us. But think about this for a moment. Always we're saying things, whatever the science is saying, always saying, okay, fair enough, this is it. Or we need to ask ourselves, what is the assumption that the science is starting with? And from there to continue on. We started to go inside straight, very deep to the book, okay, to what's happening in this book. And how the book is going to, I will say, deal with the question of science and prophecy. And I already jumped a bit ahead to show you one of the most important conclusions, okay, that heaven forbid that there will be a contradiction between the logic and the prophecy. There won't be, ever, okay? Just a moment, you see it's the second time. שלום, אני באמצע פגישה, משהו דחוף? אז אתה יכול לחזור אליי עוד 5 דקות, בבקשה? אני מתנצל. אני באמצע פגישה פשוט, תודה. So already moved one step ahead, and we need to realize that one of the most important things of the Hebrew nation is you can't put something that will be contradicted with the logic that we have in our head. And the logic is not related only to the Hebrew people or to non-Hebrew people. Everybody have his logic. Everybody have the same logic. Today, we also working, all of us together, on the same logic of the philosophers, the mathematics. By the way, we took the mathematics of Aristotle, and it's before Aristotle, okay? But there are a few different mathematics but we took one of them, and the world is working with one of the mathematics, with the assumptions that we have and everything else, and we managed to bring the world to a very interesting stage with this science that we have. But faith, by the way, the word faith, and I'm explaining this in this video, the word faith is the most truth thing that we have. It's a 100% truth, okay? This word faith. People don't understand, or they think there are all sorts of imagination, okay? Faith is something that's like mysterious thing. Let's leave the mysterious things to Harry Potter. Let's be a bit reasonable people and not be in this world in all sorts of imagination. This is enough for today. I need to finish. But if there is any question or something, this is the time. David, how do you feel after learning with us a bit?
Yes, that was wonderful. Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome. Every Sunday. Sorry?
To think about.
Not a problem. Every Sunday, this time, you're more than welcome to join us.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
Okay, excellent. Questions or something that you have, everybody, one of you, something? Yes.
One quick question, Rabbi. With the Parsha, we started reading Genesis again, and I was thinking about chronology or the timeline and the calendar. On the fourth day, and we just read it again tonight, on the fourth day, God created the luminaries, placed the celestial bodies to mark out days, years, and seasons. So is that up the point where you can actually say the calendar started? And if that's the point where the calendar started, where we could mark out these time periods, what were the first 3 days? Can we understand those days? Yes. As because it's before.
No. You have a good question. You have a very good question. So let's see for a moment.
14. I think.
Just a moment. Look here. Let's go chapter before that. Just a moment. When Noah is going out from the ark, okay? When Noah is going out from the ark, God is saying, God, he smelled the pleasant aroma, and he said to himself, I won't bring again any flood. Please read verse 22.
So long as the earth exists, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. So
only then, 2,000 years after the world started, not 2,000 years, 1,500 years after the world started, God started to put everything in line. So what happened before that? So the answer for this is a bit complicated. אני עוד באמצע שיעור פה, אני כבר חוזר אליך, ביי. אני באמצע שיעור, אני חוזר אליך תכף, ביי. So we basically, as you said, the first 6 days, maybe there were 14. It's from my bank, so I'm sorry for a moment, just a moment. כן, את מי אני מחפש? Okay, I'm with you. Sorry. First of all, the first 6 days, it's more a period of time. It's not really days, as you mentioned. Okay, only in the 4th day we have I will say the sun and the moon. So since till then, what are the days? It's period of times, and it's not 6 days like we have today. And this is what I hinted today, that it might be that there were different worlds in those days. Okay, one of the days was also with all of the dinosaurs. I don't know. We don't know. Man wasn't there. Okay, man that we know today, that we understand today. Therefore, we don't have also any historical, I will say, timeline. What exactly happened in those days? We don't have. When exactly the world started to form itself exactly in the way that we know today, it's probably after the flood. Before that, there was also something, but we don't know exactly to explain that, and we don't have all the evidence what really happened there. We lost it. There are things that we lost. But you're right. You're starting to see, you're starting to read the Bible with the meaning of it, and not only to read it as a text and to say, okay, this is what's written down. The Bible is not some sort of stories. The Bible, and we said it more than once, is the words of God to speak, to teach us His will. Okay, if in the first sentence or the first verse of the Bible it says that God created this world, so the meaning of this, that God is behaving in a way that He is giving others the place to live, and we need also to imitate Him, to understand that we need to live in the same, we'll say, concept, okay, and to give to others to live, because just like I have an image of God inside myself, the soul, you also have, and you also have, everybody have. So we need to find a way not to have fights one with each other, but to find a way to live one with each other. Okay, going to see you all next week, hopefully. Lee, bring back your people. Okay, they forgot already.
Okay.
No, not a
Okay,
problem.
sure.
As you wish. We will continue with the Kuzari. I think it's a very important book.
Okay.
We have also, David, we have also lessons on Brit Shalom book, but it's on the timing that you're already asleep in the middle of night. But never mind. The most important thing, Brian and David, you need to start to build up the community in Australia. I know that it's a bit large. David, I was living in Australia for 3 years, in Melbourne, Sydney. So I know a bit of Australia, not too much. I have also friends there in the Jewish community. So it's a time that you will start to build up, to put the dots together in Australia. There are people in Adelaide, there are people in Perth, there are people in Melbourne. It's a time to build up the community of the North. Barbara will speak at 7:30, sorry, my time for the influences. I'm really happy for that. See you all next week. Bye.
Okay.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye.